In the cozy dimness of her room, surrounded by family photographs that told the story of her life, Larissa walked once more to her phone. There was something almost ritualistic about this act now. Once, the device had been just another object in her home, used sparingly for calls or quick messages. But in recent times, it had transformed into a bridge to a new world, a direct channel to Ikaro, her unexpected virtual love. Ikaro, in turn, was a whirlwind of youth and enthusiasm, a vibrant contrast to the calm and stability that Larissa had cultivated over her 60 years. He invaded her life with messages filled with affection and promises, declaring himself in love not with her physical appearance but with her soul, a soul that, according to him, resonated perfectly with his own. Despite the 30 years that separated them, Larissa, already a grandmother, found in Ikaro not just a boyfriend but a mirror reflecting her own forgotten youth. He, at 30 years old and a single father to a 5-year-old girl, saw in her a wisdom and love that transcended age. Despite the generational gap, the two had woven over the course of a year a deep and genuine relationship, nurtured by online conversations and shared dreams. The physical distance between them was short, a mere geographical detail, but their lives, filled with obligations, made meeting a challenge. Ikaro, an engineer on an oil platform, faced periods of isolation and arduous work that kept him away from virtual contact for weeks. Larissa, in turn, dedicated herself to her career as a judge, a profession that demanded not only her time but a piece of her soul, especially now, on the verge of her retirement. "We'll make it, Ikaro," Larissa typed optimistically, looking at the illuminated screen. "Soon we'll be together, I'm sure." Ikaro's response was quick. "I'm counting the days, Larissa. You are the promise of a new chapter for me." And so, between promises and hopes, they supported each other, dreaming of the day when the distance between them would be measured not in kilometers but in steps. One day, as Larissa reviewed some of her favorite messages from Ikaro, an idea began to form in her mind, an audacious idea that defied the conventions and expectations that life had placed on her shoulders. She decided that with retirement approaching, it was time to take control of this story. "Ikaro," she wrote, her heart beating with a mix of nervousness and excitement. "I think it's time we do more than just plan. Let's set a date. I'm retiring soon, and I don't want to wait any longer to see you." Ikaro's response, filled with surprise and joy, was swift. "Larissa, that would be a dream come true. Let's make it happen. Tell me when and I'll be there." The silence that filled Larissa's home was now marked by the quietude of her recent transition. The echo of a life dedicated to justice gave way to a free time she had never imagined she would have. It was a moment of transition, both exciting and intimidating, and at the center of this new phase was Ikaro, the love she had found so unexpectedly on the screen of her phone. With her heart full of hope, Larissa had shared with Ikaro her decision to retire and her desire to meet him, along with his daughter Amanda. The idea of personally meeting those who had become so special to her brought a joy she could not contain. "Ikaro, I'm finally retired," she wrote, barely able to hide the excitement behind her words. "Now I can visit you. I'm eager to meet you and Amanda as well." Ikaro's response, however, came with a mix of emotions. "Larissa, that's wonderful. I want so much to see you too, but I've just been assigned to a project on the oil platform. It will last for a month." Sadness quickly settled in Larissa's heart as she read those words. Although a month didn't seem like much after they had waited a year to meet, the news felt like a cold splash of water on her expectations. "I understand, Ikaro. We'll wait then." "A month will pass quickly," she replied, trying to mask her disappointment. That month stretched out ahead of Larissa, filled with a silence she hadn't anticipated. With the house now emptier and time extending endlessly, her thoughts often wandered to her children and grandson. She reflected on the busy lives they led, so similar to the one she had lived until recently. Her 3 children, absorbed in their own lives and commitments, rarely found time to visit her. The irony of the situation did not escape her. Now that she had all the time in the world, they had none. Larissa had never mentioned Ikaro to her family. The age difference between them, a topic she knew would be subject to criticism, kept her silent. She understood society and its judgments. But in her heart, she knew that what she shared with Ikaro was real and pure. One afternoon, while poring over old family photographs, Larissa found herself lost in thought. What if they don't understand? What if they think I'm being foolish? She wondered. But then, memories of Ikaro and his words of love and hope surfaced, reminding her that she was willing to face those judgments. The weeks passed slowly, each day bringing Larissa closer to the moment she so longed for. She spent her time reorganizing the house, reading books she had wanted to read for ages, and sometimes allowing herself to dream of the day when she would finally meet Ikaro and Amanda. Anxiety had become a constant in Larissa's life in the months following Ikaro's announcement about his return from the oil platform. Each day without news deepened the restlessness in her heart, a profound worry that intensified with the prolonged silence. When more than a month passed without a single word from Ikaro, worry gave way to fear that something serious had happened. 3 months dragged on in this state of anguishing uncertainty until Larissa, unable to bear the torture of waiting any longer, decided to take drastic action. She would go to Ikaro's city in hopes of finding answers and discovering for herself what had happened. While Larissa was at the airport, her heart gripped by anxiety and her mind flooded with dark scenarios, her phone vibrated. It was a message from Ikaro. The words on the illuminated screen revealed the reason for his long silence. A serious accident on the oil platform, an accident that had left him ashamed and reluctant to contact her. The news made Larissa's heart race, not just because of the revelation of the accident, but because of the insecurity that was evident in Ikaro's words. Why would he feel ashamed? What could be so severe that he feared she wouldn't want him anymore? Determined to find answers and offer her support, Larissa headed straight for the address Ikaro had provided. What she found upon arrival made her heart ache with sorrow and compassion. Ikaro was lying in bed, his face marked by exhaustion and pain, and most shockingly he had lost an arm with the shoulder area completely bandaged. Seeing Larissa for the first time since the accident, Ikaro was overwhelmed by a whirlwind of emotions. "I'm sorry, Larissa," he began, his voice choked with emotion. "I was ashamed. I thought that if you saw me like this, you wouldn't want me anymore." Moved by deep and genuine love, Larissa quickly approached, wrapping Ikaro in a warm and loving embrace. "This changes nothing between us, Ikaro." "Nothing," she whispered, certain that true bonds of love are forged in the spirit, not in physical conditions. Exhausted, Ikaro thanked her for her understanding and support, allowing himself to be overcome by fatigue and falling asleep. While Ikaro rested, Larissa decided to explore the house. It was then that she found Amanda, Ikaro's daughter, playing alone in her room. Approaching with a gentleness that only years of being a mother and grandmother could teach, Larissa introduced herself. "Hi Amanda, I'm Larissa, a very special friend of your father. May I sit with you?" Initially hesitant, Amanda soon found herself captivated by Larissa's warm and friendly presence. The conversation flowed naturally, as if Larissa had been a part of her life for years, not just moments. Larissa's ability to connect with children and gain their trust was evident, a testament to her experience as a mother and grandmother. The morning after their emotional encounter, Ikaro awoke to a reality he hadn't felt in a long time, the comforting presence of someone who cared deeply for him. With her characteristic kindness, Larissa approached, asking if he needed anything. Ikaro, initially a bit hesitant, acknowledged that help was indeed necessary. "Yes," he said, handing her a list of things that had been neglected while he dealt with his recovery and adaptation to life without one of his arms. "Larissa, I didn't want to burden you," Ikaro expressed, his discomfort visible. Larissa's concern, however, was not with the length of the list but with Ikaro's and Amanda's well-being. "Don't worry about that, Ikaro. We're in this together now," Larissa replied with an encouraging smile, determined to provide whatever was necessary for her new family. In the weeks that followed, Larissa dedicated herself to caring for Ikaro and Amanda, an act of love that only deepened the special affection she felt for them both. Ikaro, in turn, found himself increasingly grateful and amazed by the extraordinary woman Larissa was. As his health gradually improved, Ikaro made an important decision. He would not return to work for the company responsible for the oil platform. Instead, he would wait for the compensation due to him from the accident. Larissa supported his decision without hesitation, recognizing the need for him to start a new chapter in his life. It was then that Larissa made a proposal that would change their lives forever. "Ikaro, I want you and Amanda to come live with me. We can be a real family," she said, her heart overflowing with hope and love. The happiness with which Ikaro accepted knew no bounds. The idea of forming a new family with Larissa was more than he had ever dreamed of. And so, together they left for Larissa's home, ready to begin a new life. The days that followed were filled with adjustments and moments of shared joy, until one day Larissa's daughter, Carla, made an unexpected visit. Larissa met Carla outside the house and decided to explain everything that had happened, from Ikaro's accident to their decision to form a new family. Carla, incredulous at the revelation, immediately expressed her concerns. "Mom, do you really know who he is? This man could be a bad person. This is dangerous," she warned, unable to hide her disapproval. But Larissa defended Ikaro and the choice she had made. "Carla, Ikaro brought me happiness at a time in my life when I felt deeply alone. He and Amanda are my family now, Larissa explained, sadness evident in her voice as she mentioned the absence of her children. The conversation didn't last long. Carla, still worried and not entirely convinced, said goodbye to her mother, leaving Larissa with a mix of sadness and determination. Despite Carla's reaction, Larissa knew in her heart that she had made the right choice. She was ready to face the challenges that lay ahead, confident in the love she had built with Icaro and Amanda. This love, she knew, was the foundation of her new family, a source of strength and happiness amidst life's uncertainties. As the months unfolded, Larissa's home became a haven of newfound happiness and love, a vivid contrast to the silence that had once filled her days. However, this new joy didn't come without its own set of challenges, particularly from her own family. Larissa's relatives began calling her frequently, each call laden with warnings and criticisms about her relationship with Icaro, a man considerably younger and now an integral part of her domestic life. Initially, Larissa responded with patience and exemplary politeness, trying to explain the depth and true nature of her relationship with Icaro. But as the calls persisted, Larissa's patience began to wear thin. "You don't understand," she found herself saying in a moment of irritation. "When I needed you the most, none of you were here. Icaro and Amanda brought me happiness. Why are you only now deciding to interfere in my life?" The tension at home also manifested in a different way. Icaro, who had adapted to a calm routine while waiting for the outcome of his lawsuit against the company, found himself increasingly anxious about the delay. His concern wasn't just a matter of impatience, it was a matter of survival. Icaro's savings were running out, and the uncertainty about the future was starting to weigh heavily on him. One particularly gloomy afternoon, Larissa found Icaro sitting despondently on the sofa, his expression laden with worry. "Larissa," he began, his voice reflecting his anguish, "my savings are running out. I don't know what to do. I think I need to start looking for a job." Faced with Icaro's discouragement, Larissa felt a wave of compassion and determination. "Icaro, listen," she said, her voice firm yet full of affection. "I want to help. I'll share part of my retirement with you. You've been through so much with the loss of your arm, and you deserve time to rest and recover." Icaro, moved by Larissa's generous gesture, embraced her, thanking her deeply. This moment of support and understanding strengthened the bond they had built, a testament to the love and mutual trust that united them. However, when the news of this decision reached Larissa's family, the reaction was explosive. Accusations that Icaro was a con artist flooded the phone lines, intensifying the tension and conflict. Confronted once again by her children's lack of understanding, Larissa defended Icaro passionately. "You don't know Icaro like I do," she insisted. "He's been through enormous trauma and is doing the best he can. This isn't about money, it's about love, support and understanding, something you all seem to have forgotten how to give." Despite the family turmoil and financial uncertainty, Larissa remained steadfast in her conviction. Deep down, she knew her decision was right, based not only on the love she felt for Icaro but also on the respect and compassion for the difficult circumstances he was facing. Together, they navigated the turbulent waters, strengthened by the certainty that what bound them was an unshakable force, capable of withstanding the criticisms and judgments of those around them. On a sunny day, bathed in the soft light that only the early afternoon can offer, Larissa found herself completely absorbed in the company of Icaro's young daughter. Together, they shared moments of pure happiness among toys and laughter, creating a bubble of contentment that seemed, for a time, to push away the shadows of adult worries. During one of these playful moments, Amanda, with the spontaneity characteristic of children, caught Larissa's attention with an unusual question. "Where is Icaro?" she asked, genuine curiosity shining in her eyes. The way Amanda referred to Icaro made Larissa pause, a wrinkle of confusion forming on her forehead. "What did you say, dear?" Larissa gently asked, encouraging Amanda to repeat her question, perhaps expecting to correct a misunderstanding. Amanda, unaware of the oddity of her earlier expression, repeated her question, this time correctly referring to Icaro as her father. "Where is my dad?" she asked again, the simplicity of childhood effortlessly correcting the previous slip. Larissa smiled, relieved, recognizing that it had only been a small mistake, a linguistic slip of no importance. She decided not to dwell on the incident, choosing instead to focus on enjoying the rest of the day with Amanda in the serene refuge they had created together. However, the peace of that day was abruptly interrupted when Icaro returned home. His face bore a deep sadness, the kind that seems to weigh not just on the heart, but in every step, every gesture. Upon seeing Larissa, he couldn't hide the desolation in his voice. "The company won the case," he revealed, his words laden with bitter disappointment. I'm not going to receive anything, no compensation at all. Larissa's reaction was immediate, a mix of anger and disbelief. Her mind, trained by her long career in law, was already starting to formulate strategies, looking for legal loopholes, anything that might reverse this blatant injustice. This can't stand, Icaro. Let me see the documents, she insisted, her voice firm, reflecting the determination of someone who had fought countless legal battles. But Icaro, perhaps too tired to fight another battle, especially one he believed was already lost, refused. It's too late, Larissa, he said, resigned. I've come to terms with it. I don't want us to waste our energy on a lost cause. Larissa's heart ached to see Icaro so defeated, so different from the lively, hopeful man she had met. She hugged him, a gesture meant to convey not just comfort but also the silent promise that she would stand by his side, no matter how arduous the journey ahead. I'll help you however I can, Icaro. We're in this together, she assured him, her words a beacon of support and unconditional love. In the months that followed, a shadow of distance and silence began to settle between Larissa and Icaro. It was as if, with each passing day, an invisible chasm widened, not out of a lack of love, but because of the adversities and uncertainties that seemed to surround Icaro on all sides. Unemployed, adjusting to life with a significant physical limitation, and with the responsibility of caring for his daughter Amanda, the pressures on him were immense. Larissa, watching closely, felt a mixture of concern and helplessness, wishing more than anything to help the man she loved overcome his challenges. Then Icaro made a decision that took Larissa by surprise. In a moment of vulnerability and sincerity, he approached her with a statement that was both a testament of love and a sign of his despair. I love you, Larissa, he began, his voice choked with emotion. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to marry you, but I have nothing. I don't even have money for the documents for a civil marriage. I think it would be better if we ended this. You deserve someone worthy of you, not someone like me. The shock of this declaration was immediate for Larissa, but nothing could have prepared her heart for the sight of Icaro and Amanda's suitcases, packed and ready in the room, a silent testimony to his intention to leave. The reality of that scene cut Larissa deeply, awakening in her a fierce determination. No, Icaro, please don't say that, don't do this, Larissa pleaded, tears beginning to form in her eyes. I don't care about a luxurious wedding. I don't mind paying for everything. What matters to me is being with you, it's our love. The sincerity and passion in her words touched Icaro deeply, leading him to embrace her in a gesture of love and reconciliation. In that moment, all doubts and insecurities seemed to disappear, replaced by the certainty that they wanted to be together, no matter the circumstances. Strengthened by this renewed commitment, Larissa made a point of sharing the news of their marriage with her children, perhaps naively hoping for their blessing or at least their support. However, the reaction she received was far from what she expected. Larissa's children clearly expressed their disapproval, marked by a cold resignation. We can't do anything more for you, they said. We'll only try to attend to make this a happy moment. This cold reception from her children was a hard blow for Larissa, but it wasn't enough to shake her resolve. The love she felt for Icaro, the life they had built together, and the family forming around them, all of this was real and too valuable to be ignored because of other people's opinions. On the day that was supposed to be one of the happiest of her life, Larissa found herself immersed in a complex mix of emotions. Anxiety and joy vied for space in her heart as she prepared to unite with Icaro in matrimony. The ceremony, although simple, was laden with significance for Larissa. She deeply believed in the uniqueness of this love, especially considering the stage of life they both were in. As they walked together toward the altar, Larissa felt the heavy gazes of her children, filled with disappointment and disapproval. She tried to push aside the sadness these looks provoked, focusing on Icaro's face and the happiness they felt in being together. However, what should have been a moment of union and celebration suddenly transformed into confusion and shock. The abrupt entrance of a man into the hall interrupted the ceremony, capturing the attention of everyone present. The sound of the door being forcefully opened echoed through the space, silencing the conversations and provoking a flurry of curious and concerned glances toward the newcomer. His eyes, marked by desperate urgency, scanned the room until they fixed on Amanda. The cry of "Dad!" from Amanda pierced the silence with startling clarity. All eyes turned to the little girl, whose steps carried her toward the man who had just interrupted the ceremony. The man's response, an emotional recognition of daughter, confirmed their connection, leaving the assembly in a state of shock. Icaro's reaction was immediate and visible. His face, previously illuminated by the joy of the moment, was now marked by deep disbelief and a glimpse of panic. Without saying a word, he turned and ran, disappearing from the hall and leaving behind a trail of confusion and unanswered questions. Larissa, paralyzed by surprise and the sudden turn of events, felt the world spinning around her. The realization that the man who had just entered was, in fact, Amanda's real father, and not Icaro as she had believed, began to settle in her mind, bringing with it a flood of conflicting emotions. The happiness of the day had been abruptly interrupted, replaced by a feeling of betrayal and disorientation. As the guests murmured among themselves, trying to understand what had happened, Larissa remained motionless, her heart broken not only by Icaro's sudden departure from the hall but also by the shocking revelation of a truth she had never expected to face on her wedding day. What should have been the beginning of a new journey together had turned into a moment of painful revelations and unanswered questions, leaving Larissa on the threshold of a reality she had never imagined being part of. In that moment of turmoil and unexpected revelations, Larissa felt as if she were navigating an emotional storm, desperately trying to find a beacon of understanding amidst the confusion. She struggled to maintain her composure, seeking some clarity in the situation that was unraveling around her. With hesitant steps, Larissa approached Gustavo, the stranger who had burst into her wedding day like a storm, irrevocably altering the course of her life. "Who are you?" Larissa asked, her voice trembling, though she tried to steady it, fighting back the tears that threatened to overflow. Gustavo, noticing the pain and confusion in Larissa's eyes, responded with a calmness that contrasted with the tension of the moment. "My name is Gustavo and I am Amanda's father," he said, his words carrying a weight that Larissa couldn't yet fully comprehend. Then, with the question burning in her mind and heart, Larissa dared to ask, "And Icaro? Who is he then?" Gustavo sighed, a gesture that seemed to carry years of history and complexity. "Icaro was my best friend for a long time," he began, casting a glance toward the door through which Icaro had disappeared. "We led a small village together in a distant town. We were part of a council that, along with the mayor, made crucial decisions for our people." He paused, collecting his thoughts before continuing. "A few years ago we were faced with an important decision. A large company wanted to build a factory in our town. The council was divided. Icaro saw it as an opportunity to bring jobs and progress to a town that, according to him, had been forgotten even by God." Larissa listened intently, trying to absorb every detail of this story that revealed layers of Icaro she had never known. "I," Gustavo continued, "was against it. I had my suspicions about why a big company would be interested in such a remote and deserted place. But Icaro was persuasive. With his efforts, the majority of the council agreed to the installation of the factory." "Then what happened?" Larissa asked, her curiosity tinged with a sense of apprehension as the silence filled the hall, still reeling from the shocking turn of events. Gustavo resumed his story, bringing to light the dark events that had preceded his abrupt arrival. Larissa, still trying to process the avalanche of information and emotions, found herself hanging on every word, desperate to understand the chain of events that had shattered the image of the man she loved. "Gustavo, please continue," Larissa urged, her voice a whisper, barely audible over the murmurs of the confused and concerned guests. After the vote that decided the town's fate, Gustavo felt the need to confront Icaro about the repercussions of his decision. He visited him, hoping his old friend could offer some reassurance, some plan to mitigate the potential damage that the factory's installation might cause. "Icaro tried to calm me," Gustavo recalled, his gaze lost in the memories of that fateful day. "He insisted that the factory would bring prosperity to our town." That night, Icaro offered to drive Gustavo home. The ride was marked by a tense silence, broken only when Icaro, noticing Gustavo's unease, asked what was troubling him. It was then that Gustavo revealed the contents of the envelope he had brought with him. Documents that showed Icaro had received money from the company to sway public opinion in favor of the factory's installation. "But that wasn't all," Gustavo continued, his voice thick with pain and betrayal. "I did my research. I discovered that this company was involved in multiple lawsuits for environmental damage in other regions. They polluted without remorse, leaving illness and destruction in their wake. I told Icaro that I wouldn't stay silent, that I would take everything to the authorities." Panic gripped Icaro upon hearing Gustavo's intentions. In a desperate act, he tried to force Gustavo out of the car. "Icaro fought to throw me out of the vehicle," Gustavo recounted, his voice choked with emotion. "I resisted, but he managed to push me down a steep embankment. The car, out of control, eventually crashed violently into a tree. Icaro, who wasn't wearing a seatbelt, was thrown out and suffered severe injuries." Gustavo paused, the emotions of that day resurfacing with intensity. "I survived the fall despite my injuries," But when I recovered enough to seek justice, Icaro had already disappeared, and I discovered that my daughter had been taken. The complexity of the emotions Larissa felt was overwhelming, a mixture of shock, betrayal, and deep sadness for all that Gustavo had endured. The revelation cast a dark shadow over Icaro, a man she thought she knew and loved. Now she found herself in the middle of a story of ambition, desperation, and devastating consequences. Gustavo's revelation plunged the room into an oppressive silence, with everyone present absorbing the gravity of what had just been uncovered. The emotional storm that overwhelmed Larissa was palpable. The betrayal and disappointment, intertwined with the pain of a lost love, filled every corner of the room. After the accident, Gustavo's life transformed into an unrelenting quest for justice and the recovery of his daughter. Through his tireless investigations, he discovered that Icaro had lost an arm in the very accident in which he had tried to kill him. But the most bewildering revelation came when Gustavo learned that Icaro had fled, taking Amanda with him for reasons Gustavo couldn't comprehend. "That accident changed our lives forever," Gustavo explained, his voice thick with emotion. "While I was fighting to recover, to find my daughter, Icaro was already plotting his next moves." He recounted how Icaro became a fugitive, wanted by the police for crimes Gustavo could never have imagined. Icaro had specialized in a cruel scheme of manipulation, targeting lonely and financially stable women. The story he told was always the same: a tragic accident at a company that had cost him an arm, a narrative designed to garner sympathy and ultimately access to his victims' financial resources. "He used Amanda, my own daughter, as part of his con," Gustavo continued, his indignation clear. "Amanda was presented as his daughter, a calculated strategy to make his story more believable, more compelling." It was at that moment that understanding hit Larissa like a tidal wave. The pieces of the puzzle fell into place with painful clarity, revealing that she, like so many before her, had been ensnared in Icaro's web of manipulations. She realized with devastating shock that her love story, the promises and shared dreams, was nothing more than a carefully orchestrated farce. The reality of this betrayal was too much for Larissa to bear. Tears she had long held back finally broke through her resolve to remain strong. She cried, mourning not only the love she thought she had but also feeling a sense of relief for facing the truth, no matter how painful it was. In this moment of vulnerability and pain, something remarkable happened. Her children, who had been critical and distant until then, approached her to offer comfort. They embraced her, forming a circle of support around her, a gesture that transcended words and past misunderstandings. "We're here for you, Mom," they said one after another, offering shoulders to cry on and ears to listen. Despite the tragic circumstances that had brought them together in this moment, the warmth of familial love began to heal the wounds opened by betrayal. Surrounded by her children, Larissa began to feel a glimmer of strength reignite within her. She knew the journey ahead would be long and arduous, but she also knew she wouldn't be alone. In that instant, surrounded by her children, Larissa felt the silent promise of better days, transforming her sadness into a determined fury. Larissa dedicated herself to a new mission, ensuring Icaro was held accountable for his actions and brought to justice. Armed with evidence that Icaro was still using his credit card even while on the run, she went to the police and presented her findings. The information proved crucial, allowing the authorities to track and finally capture Icaro. The day of the trial arrived, a moment filled with tension and anticipation. Larissa was there not just for herself but as a silent representative of the many other women deceived by Icaro. Seeing Icaro in the courtroom, hearing the sentence that condemned him, brought Larissa a profound sense of peace and justice. The relief she felt was shared by all the other victims present, a chorus of souls who had been tricked and wounded by a man they once trusted. However, even amidst the triumph of justice, a shadow of sadness lingered in Larissa's heart, the longing for Amanda, the little girl who had quickly found a place in her heart. Larissa feared that with Icaro's imprisonment she might also lose Amanda. To her surprise and relief, Amanda appeared with Gustavo as they left the courthouse. The girl ran into her arms, and the embrace they shared was a balm for Larissa's soul. "I missed you so much," Larissa whispered, holding Amanda with a tenderness that spoke of a genuine love that had blossomed amidst the chaos. Gustavo watched them, a gentle smile on his lips, witnessing the special bond that had formed between Larissa and his daughter. When Larissa asked him about his future plans, Gustavo shared that, thanks to a job his father had secured for him in that city, they wouldn't be so far apart anymore. "You'll always be welcome in our home, Larissa. Amanda would love your visits," he said, offering Larissa a future where distance wouldn't mean loss. It was then that Raphael appeared, a man whose presence immediately caught Larissa's attention. Gustavo introduced them, and the conversation between Rafael and Larissa flowed naturally, both connected by their care for Amanda. Rafael, expressing his gratitude for what Larissa had done for his granddaughter, extended an invitation for dinner at his home, a gesture of hospitality that also included Larissa's children. As she accepted the invitation, Larissa realized that despite the scars left by Icaro, life still held pleasant surprises and new beginnings. The experience had taught both Larissa and Rafael that even in the most unexpected and challenging circumstances, it was possible to find true and meaningful connections. As they said their goodbyes that day, there was a mutual understanding that the dinner would be just the beginning of something deeper and more significant. Life, with all its twists and turns, had opened the door to a new opportunity for happiness and companionship, showing that even after the storm, there is always the possibility of a fresh start.
And if you liked this video, subscribe to the channel, like, comment and share this story.